Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Orion New User Series webinar. I'm Dan Barrio, a training consultant here at Orion, and this is part of our recurring new user webinar series. We host these every month. Myself and my amazing colleague, Consuelo Sobalvaro-Mitz, a fellow training consultant here at Orion, we alternate and we cover some really great topics, whether you're a brand new user to Orion or whether you've been using Orion for a while and you'd like to get a refresher. Today, we're going to be covering a few things on reporting, client-facing reports, getting reports and information on information in your database. Before we get started, some preliminaries. As we go, I have my incredible, amazing, wonderful manager, Elizabeth Lawden, in the Q&A. She's answering questions as we go. So if you have any questions, I'll reserve a little time at the very end for some Q&A, but feel free to ask them as we go, and she'll answer any questions that we can answer right away, and possibly reserve some for the end. If there's a lot of questions coming in, and we can't get answers out to everybody, we will follow up with you after the webinar and make sure that we get some answers for you. We've also got some really good related content and resources linked. In the upper right, you'll see a link that you can click on to view our related support articles. I'm going to mention a few support articles that cover some of the information that we're looking at today. And in the lower left, we've got a really nice new link that should say view additional information. We've got two great conferences coming up. One is called Align University, which is a combination Orion and Redtail webinar. So whether you're just a Redtail user or an Orion user or someone who uses both or is looking to use both, it's a really great 2-day conference where you can get learnings on both Orion and Redtail, or one or the other, or both. And we've got Eclipse University for those of you who use our Eclipse trading app. You can check out the upcoming dates and the signups there by clicking on the link for view additional information in the lower left. And our most frequently asked question by far is this webinar recorded? Am I able to watch it after it airs? Yes, absolutely you can. From the same link that you used to sign up for and watch the webinar, you'll be able to rewatch this webinar. And since we do these recurring every month, we'll do 3 new user webinars. If you missed last week's new user webinar, you can watch it now using the same link that you used to sign up for this one. And with that, what are we going to cover and look at today? So as I mentioned, today's session is focused on different types of reporting in Orion, reporting on your client investments internally, running Orion queries to pull information about your entire book of business, running reports. Those would be client-facing reports like a statement, a quarterly statement, a performance report, something like that. And we'll get a brief overview into report customization, how you can use our reporting tools to customize and create custom reports. Now, a little disclaimer before we get started. We're going to be looking at a wide variety of functionality in Orion. Your manage users admin at the firm is the person that can determine what you have access to in Orion. So if you see something that I'm looking at or demonstrating that either looks a little different for you or you currently don't have access to, please reach out to the manage users admin at your firm. That's typically the same person that you would reach out to if you needed to, for example, reset your password. So let's start out by looking at how you can explore your client portfolios with a functionality we call Portfolio Audit. Now, Portfolio Audit basically lets you navigate your client portfolios. We're looking at an example here, a visual representation of how portfolios are structured in Orion. And this is a really, really good graphic to use as a reference as you're starting out in Orion. It shows you how we house basically transactions and securities within a portfolio. And I'll talk through how this is structured after we get into a little bit of a live demo. I just wanted to point out that this comes from this article called the Orion Platform Getting Started Guide. They're listed at the bottom, which you can find in our support app. And I highly recommend either printing out this graphic, taking a screenshot, something like that, and having it handy because it's a really good reference point to show you how we organize portfolios in Orion. Now, I mentioned portfolio audit. What is portfolio audit? Well, we're seeing an image of it on the screen. It's like a spreadsheet type view of your entire book of business. So, all of your clients, you can use it to look at your as of values for your client, their total portfolio value, how much cash they have. And then you can drill down within individual clients and you can inspect all the way down to individual transactions. You can find the buys and sells that occurred in an entire account or for a specific security. It's not the kind of thing that you would bring up during a client meeting. We have another functionality called Portfolio View, which is the kind of thing that you would. And let's start with a live demo. Let's go into a live demo of the system, and I'll demonstrate a quick little recap of Portfolio View, which we looked at in our previous session, before we go into Portfolio Audit, so you can see how they differ. There is We're in a live demo of a demo database here. These are not real clients, these are demo clients. Your database will look similar to this, although the cards that you have selected there might look a little different. Now, you can always come back to this. I like to think of this as your database's homepage. You can always come back to this by clicking on your firm's logo in the upper left. Doing that will bring you back to the homepage and refresh your dashboard. So when I say portfolio view and portfolio audit, what I mean is portfolio view is when you bring up an individual client like this. I'm going to bring up a demo client named Loki. I'm going to type his name in the search bar here, and I'm going to click on the little house icon there, which is going to bring up the household for this demo client. This is portfolio view, and it's basically like a browser tab that exists up here. You can keep opening additional clients in a new portfolio view like this. If I bring up another client's name, and they're like browser tabs, you can navigate them by clicking on one or the other. Now, portfolio view is not an app in Orion. You can't find it in your list of apps here on the left. It's basically just what opens up when you search for a client here and click on their name. Portfolio Audit is an app, so I'm going to close out of these portfolio views. Portfolio Audit is its own app, and I have it saved here as a favorite in my sidebar on the left. If I expand this More section, I can find all of the apps that I have access to. And if I wanted to add something to my favorites, like let's say I wanted to add the support app to my favorites, which is something I recommend you do because the support app is where you can find our support articles. All you need to do is click on the star next to the app's name, and it's going to add it up here to the top. And you can reorganize that order of apps like that. I'm going to move my mouse away, and you can see that it slides away this side drawer. So that is something that you can customize if you find that you have a wide monitor and you always want to have this sidebar open. You can click on this little expand button in the lower left, and that's going to keep that open. Now I'm going to collapse this here by clicking on the collapse, and I'm going to hover over the portfolio audit. Now, some of our apps in Orion, like Portfolio Audit, have a variety of sections that you can jump into. But if you click on the app name itself, it's always going to bring you to its home page, which in Portfolio Audit is the dashboard here. The dashboard for Portfolio Audit is helpful. It shows you recent activity that's occurred in the last business day. But I find that most advisors usually will go into Portfolio Audit either at the households level or the accounts level. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on households. And this is where we can see our entire book of business. So this is where I can see my book of business. In Orion, we have two types of users, essentially. We have advisor level users, which are users that can see every client in the database. And then we have representative level users, which are users that can only see their book of business. So I'm logged in as a representative type of user, which means there are more clients than this in the database, but I can only see the clients that have been assigned to me as a representative. Now from here, I can get some good basic information. I can see my list of clients. I can see the current total value of their portfolio. And if I scroll to the right, there's a few more columns here. You can make this even more useful and relevant to you by customizing this view. And this is one of those things that we do recommend as a best practice, to customize your view to include the columns that you find useful and want to access most often. To do that, I'm going to come to this right sidebar, Now, if you don't see this right sidebar, it might be collapsed like this. So you'll want to look for this little expand arrow and click on that to expand it. And then from this columns dropdown, if you click on that, you can see all of the columns that you currently have in this view. So the order of the columns that I see there is the same that I see in this list. And if I wanted to reorganize that list, I could, for example, maybe I want to make the email a little bit more prominent. I can click on its column title and move it up like that. And you can see that it's moved it next to current value. You can also just move and organize columns like this. So if you click on the column title and move it like that, that will also organize it. So in addition to that, you can turn on columns that you don't currently see here. We have a lot more columns than you see in your default views that you can turn on and show. Those are, by default, those are disabled columns. So if I want to show those, I'll first click on this Show Disabled Columns in the right. And that's going to show all of the columns that I can potentially show in this view. So for example, here's a pretty useful one, a cash balance column. It's going to show me the cash in the total portfolio for each of my clients. If I click on that, it's going to add it to the end of my list here, all the way on the right. I can click on that and move it over to live next to current value. So now at a glance, I can see my entire book of business by client. I can see the total value of their portfolio and their total cash. Now, cash includes money markets and bank sweeps, so that's included in that total. Whenever you do customize your view, you're going to want to save your view, because if I make any other changes here and then I go away to somewhere else in Orion and I come back, it's going to forget my changes. So I want to save those changes, and I will save those as a view. I'm going to do that by clicking on this columns to close it. And then I can now click here in the upper right, see where it says standard view. This is the view that I've been looking at and customizing it. I want to save this as a brand new view, so I'm going to click on the pencil icon in the upper right, and I'm going to click on Save as New View. So let's call this my book, and click Save to save this. So now I have a custom view called My Book, and I can switch between this and any other custom views I've created, or that standard view that I started out with. Something useful that you can do is you can make any one of these views your default view. So whenever you come into Portfolio Audit, it will display this as your default view. And you can do that by clicking on the pencil icon. Here's a view that I already created, and I can assign it as my default view by clicking on it like this. Now, since I'm logged in as a demo user, it won't actually let me do that, but it'll let you do it for yours. And also, let's say I created another view here. I'm going to turn on some of these address columns, for example. If I were to save this as a new view, whenever you save a view, you also have the option to set that as the default. But keep in mind, you can only have one default view. So whatever you set as your default view will be your new default. And that's the default view at this level of the portfolio. So what I mean by that is we've been at the top level of all of the portfolios, which is what we call the household level.